When the application is initialized, users are greeted with a login page. Login information is stored in the cloud database hosted by GCP, also known as Google's cloud platform. When a user logs in, a salt is retrieved from the database, which is then used to encode the password. The password is then sent back, and if it matches the latest password that a user has set, then the Sentinel value is returned as true, and a user gains entry to the application. Once logged in, the user is greeted with the home page of Machine Miner. The user can perform one of two actions as of this alpha build. They can either create a profile, or they can search through said profiles. Here would be a great place to have some additional functionalities like profile management, which would entail things like refactoring, refreshing, or removing profiles from a user's repository. But I would also love to include some things like quick links to popular files, a corpus of file summaries, and other such functionalities. So when a user goes to create a profile, they're going to come over here and just click Create a Profile. We're going to time this to see how long it takes, and I'll be back once it's done. Alright, so it took about 32 seconds or 33 seconds to enter this Create Profile screen. So in that time, it was scanning my device and creating what is essentially a top-down tree of every single folder and file that is compatible with this project within my user directory. So in order to create a profile, we obviously need that data, but we also want some additional information like what the name of the profile would be and what search type a user wants to use. Now, the primary functionality and what I find works best is standard search, which is using TF-IDF as the backend. But I also include an advanced search for those that have really, really large corpuses with a lot of data in them to leverage a chunk embedding method. So what a user would do is they would come here and they would type in whatever they want. For this use case, let's just call it test. Navigate and select which search type you want. And then you would come down here and you want to select folders or files that you want included. Now, a lot of this is going to be text files of things that I do not want. So we add additional functionality here to allow a user to include whatever they want. So we have some loose files inside of my documents folder, but what I really care about here is the totally inconspicuous school documents folder. This is what we're going to be using as the sample set for the search in the next portion. So you would come down here and you would toggle it, and now all school documents that are located inside this section of the documents portion of my directory are now all included inside of my assignment. So once that's done, you would navigate up here and click Create Profile, and it takes only a few short moments, and then it brings you back to the home page. Finally, let's search through the profile that we just created. So when we navigate, we're met with a nice search engine where it lets you select the profile that you've created. There are some sample ones as well as ones that I've used before, but let's select the one that we just created, test. Now test references all school documents in my totally inconspicuous school documents folder. So let's see what happens when I run some searches across this. Namely, I want to show you what the difference is between a simple and a super search, as well as how good the recall is. So let me pull my first question, which is, what land was pillaged by the Spanish conquistador for my globalization class paper? So when I run a simple search, I'm met with some top documents. The first one is a global inequality final, and when I open it in Word, you can see that it's actually a paper talking about Hernan Cortez traveling to Mexico and pillaging. Let's come over here and enable a super search, and let's run the exact same query again to see what we get. So, based on the provided text, Hernan Cortez and the Spanish conquistadors pillaged the land of the Aztecs, also known as Mexica, in present-day Mexico. So we got our question answered without ever even needing to open a single document. Let's take it one step further. Let's say that I want to understand a bit more about this document, but I don't want to have to read through all of it. You can also come over here and click on any of these titles to get a summary. And just like that, it drums up a quick summary of the entire document. In this case, it's pointed out the fact that not only did I talk about Latin America, but I also talked about Africa and Asia in this document. Let's run another search. This time, I want to provide it with some correct information to help steer it towards finding the correct paper, but I also want to provide it some incorrect information to see if it corrects me. So now we're going to search for who was the Confederate battling George Washington that resulted in Indian casualties. Here, again, we're met with some top documents. If we open this character report, you can see that it was a character report written from the perspective of Christopher Gist, who was a frontiersman during the French and English versus Indian War. So I want to know more about this paper. Let's see what happens when I run a super search. Is it going to call out the fact that not only was Christopher Gist not a Confederate, but the Confederacy wasn't even formed before then? So, it correctly calls out that there is no mention of a Confederate soldier battling and resulting in Indian casualties, but it does call out the fact that one of the provided documents was in fact the account of Christopher Gist during the French and Indian conflicts, which included George Washington's actions against the French. Again, if we want a quick summary of this report, we would just come down here and click it, and we again get another quick summary of what this document is about. Let's run one final one, this time showing an example of what happens when we don't have a target. So I don't have any papers written about the Great Depression, but let's just see what happens when I search for it. So first, I'm going to search through, and it's going to find some random documents. Now the top document has quite a low score, but let's open the file and we can see that it actually is in fact talking about this project. It's the original proposal for it. It has nothing to do with the Great Depression, so this isn't really accurate search results for us because none of the documents that I have at all pertain to the Great Depression. But let's see what happens if I run a super search on this. Is it going to identify the fact that none of the documents that were returned actually are about the Great Depression? And once again, it correctly identifies that there are in fact no documents specifically about the Great Depression. It calls out some of the top results though, mentioning that there's a search engine architecture, which in this case is the search engine that it actually just used. A data science assignment, and some neuroscience notes. That concludes this project. Thank you all for watching, and I hope that you learned a little bit more about my project through this demonstration. And if you have any questions or concerns, either leave them in the comment section below or ask me after the presentation concludes. Thank you.